I drop my hospital badge on the kitchen counter, still wearing blue scrubs from my 12-hour shift. Every muscle aches, but Nina will be hungry. Freezer door open, I scan for something quick: chicken tenders, frozen vegetables, good enough. Nora, could you come in here? Dad's voice floats from the dining room, carrying that artificial calm that always precedes trouble. Just a minute. I slide the chicken into the microwave, punch in 3 minutes. Starting dinner for Nina. This can't wait. I'm Addo. The microwave hums as I shuffle toward the dining room, still in my compression socks. Mom and Dad sit at opposite ends of the rectangular oak table, a formal arrangement we normally reserve for Thanksgiving or when Pastor Miller visits. Papers spread between them, crisp white against the scarred wood. Nina's wheelchair is positioned at the fourth side. Dad's gray-flecked mustache twitches when I enter. Sit down. No greeting, no "how was your shift," just the command. I lower myself into the remaining chair, noting Mom's pinched expression and the way Nina studies her hands folded in her lap. "What's going on?" I ask, trying to ignore the dread pooling in my stomach. Dad slides a document toward me, his signet ring catching the overhead light. "Your mother and I are getting older. We need to formalize the arrangements for Nina's care." I scan the first page. Caregiver agreement stretches across the top in bold letters. Further down, responsible party, Nora Ann Reed. I don't understand. "It's simple," Mom says, voice soft but unyielding. "You'll cash out your $401 to create a care fund for Nina. Then you'll contribute $2,000 monthly toward her ongoing expenses." The room tilts slightly. $2,000? Every month? Dad leans forward, fingers steepled. "You make 70 grand as a nurse. That's over 4,000 a month. We're only asking for half." "But my student loans, my rent?" "Don't hide behind student loans." Mom cuts in, suddenly sharp. "You've got 60 grand in your 401. Cash it out, you'll get at least 40,000 after taxes." My hands start trembling. I press them flat against the table, fighting the nausea climbing my throat. This seems very sudden. "Bae." "Nothing sudden about it," Dad says. "You've been responsible for your sister since the accident. Now we're just putting it in writing." I stare at the papers. My name repeated throughout. Responsible party. Financial obligations. Legally binding. My vision blurs around the edges as I try to process what's happening. "Sign today, and we can file the paperwork tomorrow," Dad adds, pushing a pen toward me. Memory flashes. 16-year-old me sitting on Nina's hospital bed, braiding her hair while machines beep around us. "I'll always take care of you." "I promise then," voice breaking. "This is all my fault, but I'll fix it somehow." Nina's eyes catch mine across the table now, then slide away. She hasn't spoken a word. Why is this all on me? The question comes out smaller than intended. "We're all family." Dad's face hardens. "Because you're the reason she's in that wheelchair." The familiar knife of guilt twists deeper, but beneath it stirs something new, a question I've never allowed myself to voice. 11 years of this, and now you want it in writing? "The arrangement has always been clear," Mom says, smoothing invisible wrinkles from the tablecloth. "You chose to feed stray cats instead of walking Nina to the bus stop. Your irresponsibility cost her everything." Each word lands with practiced precision. I've heard this story thousands of times. 14-year-old Nina missed her bus because I wasn't there to walk her. She tried to catch it at the next stop, crossed the street without looking, and a delivery truck couldn't stop in time. My fault. Always my fault. I need time to think about this. My voice steadies unexpectedly. Dad's eyebrows shoot up. "There's nothing to think about. You owe this to your sister." "Just a day or two," I insist. "Sign now," Mom says, "or we'll tell everyone at the hospital how you're abandoning your responsibility. Your supervisor at Denver Memorial, your church friends, everyone will know." The threat hangs between us. They know exactly how I've built my life around what happened, how the hospital staff respects my dedication to my paralyzed sister, how the church community admires my sacrifice. "You wouldn't do that. Try us." Dad's voice drops dangerously low. "Pastor Miller thinks you're practically a saint. Imagine his disappointment." Nina still says nothing, her wheelchair positioned perfectly to form a barrier between me and my parents. I reach for the pen, fingers trembling, hold it above the signature line. My entire future condensed to a single stroke of ink. Then I place the pen down gently. "I'll talk to you tomorrow." Dad starts to speak, but I'm already standing, legs unsteady beneath me. In my bedroom, I lock the door and sink to the floor, back against the wall. My hands shake too violently to text. I scroll through my contacts, finding a name I haven't called in years. The phone rings 3 times before she answers. Nora? Evelyn sounds surprised. It's been forever. Are you okay? The concern in her voice breaks something loose inside me. Tears flow freely now as I struggle to explain. They want everything I have. My retirement, my paycheck. I don't know what to do. Slow down, Evelyn says, lawyer mode activating. Start at the beginning. Tell me exactly what happened. Between sobs, I explain the ambush, the papers, the threats. Evelyn listens without interruption, then asks the question that stops my breath. Nora, have you ever seen the actual police report from Nina's accident? No, I whisper, memories rearranging themselves like puzzle pieces. They handled everything. I was 16, devastated. They told me what happened. Silence stretches between us before I voice the thought forming in the darkest corner of my mind. What if it wasn't my fault after all? Oh. The coffee shop buzzes with quiet conversation, a sanctuary far from my parents' reach. 3 days since their ambush, and my hands still tremble holding the ceramic mug. Steam curls upward, disappearing like the life I thought I knew. Evelyn slides into the booth across from me, briefcase thudding against the wooden table. Gone is the college friend with wild curls and infectious laughter. This Evelyn wears a tailored charcoal suit, hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, eyes sharp with purpose. You look terrible, she says, no cushioning. That's the Evelyn I remember. 12-hour shifts plus avoiding my family will do that. I attempt a smile that feels more like a grimace. Haven't been back to the house except to sleep since, you know. She unlatches her briefcase with twin clicks. I found the police report. The words hang between us like a physical thing. I stare at the manila folder she places on the table, its edges crisp and official, containing either my imprisonment or my freedom. How bad is it? My voice comes out small, childlike. Evelyn doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she opens the folder, turns it to face me. Read it yourself. The black type blurs before my eyes. Location of accident: Westridge Road in Maple, 3.8 miles from our neighborhood. Time: 3:42 p.m. Vehicle involved: 1998 Honda motorcycle. Driver: Jason Miller, age 17. Passenger: Nina Reed, age 14. This can't be right. I flip through the pages, scanning witness statements. This says she was on a motorcycle with some boy, miles from where I fed the cats. Keep reading. Evelyn's voice remains steady. Witness testimony jumps out at me. Female passenger was laughing, arms wrapped around driver's waist. Motorcycle attempted to beat yellow light. Delivery truck had green signal when collision occurred, but they told me she missed her bus because I wasn't there. That she was trying to catch it at the next stop when my throat closes around the words. They lied, Nora. Evelyn's fingers cover mine, warm and solid. They lied about everything. The coffee shop walls seem to tilt and sway. 11 years of guilt. 11 years of sacrificed dreams, of working double shifts, of apologizing with every breath for a crime I never committed. Nina was joyriding with her secret boyfriend. Evelyn continues, voice low. Jason Miller, captain of the JV basketball team. Your parents forbade her from seeing him, remember? Too old, too wild. Memories resurface, Nina whispering on the phone late at night, mysterious text messages, sudden interest in basketball games. Details I'd forgotten, buried under years of atonement. Multiple witnesses confirmed it. Evelyn flips to another page. Nina skipped the bus entirely that day to meet Jason. They were heading to the lake when they ran the light. My stomach heaves. I bolt for the bathroom, barely making it before emptying my breakfast into the toilet. Cold sweat beads on my forehead as I rinse my mouth, staring at my reflection hollow-eyed, pale, a ghost formed of other people's lies. When I return, Evelyn has ordered me fresh tea. The police report waits, inexorable as Judgment Day. The hospital records, I whisper, lowering myself carefully into the booth, the ones I wasn't allowed to see because I was too emotional. They knew from the beginning, didn't they? Evelyn nods, her lawyer face on. I spoke with the nurse who was there when Nina was brought in. Your parents immediately started constructing the narrative. Right there in the trauma room, while doctors were working on Nina, Your father was already saying you were responsible. The betrayal carves through me, a physical pain radiating from my chest outward. Why would they do this to me? Money, initially, then control. Evelyn pulls out more documents. Your grandmother left you $20,000 when she died, remember? 3 months after Nina's accident, your parents borrowed it for emergency medical expenses, but Nina's care was covered by insurance. Another memory surfaces, signing papers while crying in Nina's hospital room, Dad's hand heavy on my shoulder. For your sister's future, he'd said. They made me delay college. My voice sounds distant, foreign. Said Nina needed me at home for her recovery. I took night classes while working days, watching her between shifts. They were, and your nursing degree? Who chose that career path? The question hits like a slap. Mom said it made sense, that I'd be better equipped to care for Nina. Yet nurses make significantly less than the engineering career you originally planned. Evelyn slides another document forward. Your starting salary would have been nearly double what you make now. My mind races, recalculating 11 years of manipulation. The guilt trips when I mentioned moving out. The constant reminders about my responsibility. Nina's occasional tearful apologies that never made sense until now. They've been planning this formal agreement for months. I realized aloud. That's why they kept asking about my 401. Evelyn nods. Without this document, they have no legal basis for their demands. They're scared, Nora. Of what? Losing their cash cow? Bitterness rises like bile. That's part of it. Evelyn hesitates. I did some digging. Your parents are underwater financially, second mortgage, credit card debt, medical bills not covered by insurance. Your father lost his job 6 months ago. The revelation should soften my anger, but instead it hardens into something cold and precise. He never told me. All those church fundraisers, the respect he commands in the community, it's a facade. People do desperate things when they're afraid. Evelyn says. Your mother had an emotional breakdown at the church fundraiser last month. Pastor Miller thought it was about Nina's condition, but it was financial pressure. The pieces clicked together with terrible clarity. And Nina? Did she know? She had to, Evelyn confirms gently. She was 14, not 4. She remembers the accident. The betrayal from my sister cuts deepest of all. 11 years of silent complicity while watching me sacrifice everything. They're not cartoon villains, Evelyn cautions, reading my expression. They're genuinely scared of losing their home, unable to fund Nina's therapies without your income. Your mother truly believes Nina's future depends on your sacrifice. That doesn't make it right. My voice hardens. No, it doesn't. Evelyn closes the folder with finality. The good news is they have no case. The statute of limitations expired years ago. Even if Nina's accident had been your fault, which it absolutely wasn't, they have no legal standing to demand ongoing support. For the first time in days, I feel something like hope stirring. So what do? We gather more evidence. The police report is just the beginning. Evelyn ticks off points on her fingers. We need witness statements, Nina's ex, boyfriend's testimony, your Aunt Laura who overheard your parents at the hospital. Jason Miller still lives in Denver. I recall suddenly. He coaches basketball at Westridge High. Perfect. And I know someone else who can help. Evelyn pulls out her phone. Marcus Bennett, investigative journalist specializing in family frauds. He broke that story last year about the couple who faked their child's illness for donations. The magnitude of what we're planning finally hits me. This will destroy my family. Evelyn's gaze softens slightly. Your family destroyed itself the moment they decided to sacrifice your future for their convenience. But this isn't about revenge, Nora. It's about freedom, yours and Nina's. I stare at the police report, at the truth concealed for 11 years. Will Nina hate me for this? She might initially. Change is terrifying, especially for someone dependent on others. Evelyn reaches across the table, her hand warm over mine. But you don't have to face this alone anymore. You have me, Marcus, your aunt. People who want the truth. For the first time in 11 years, the weight on my shoulders lightens incrementally. The path ahead remains daunting, but no longer impossible. Okay, I say, straightening my spine. Let's do this. As we gather the documents, planning our next steps, I picture 16-year-old me sobbing at Nina's bedside, promising eternal care for a crime I never committed. That girl deserves justice as much as the woman I've become deserves freedom. We have the truth now, and truth, once uncovered, cannot be buried again. That same day, I located Jason Morgan's profile on social media, my finger hovering over the message button. His life appears perfectly ordinary wedding photos, with a brunette in a lace dress, 2 small children with his square jaw, a suburban home with white columns. Nothing suggests he carries the same burden I do. Are you sure about this? Evelyn asks, peering over my shoulder at the laptop screen. No, but what choice do I have? I click the button and type a simple message. Were you with Nina the day of her accident? My phone buzzes within minutes. A local number I don't recognize. Nora? It's Jason. I got your message. His voice sounds deeper than I remember, but with the same slight hesitancy. I've been waiting 11 years for this call. My heart hammers against my ribs. What do you mean? I've carried this guilt for years. His words rush out, unstoppable. Nina begged me not to tell anyone she was on my motorcycle. She wasn't wearing a helmet, said it would mess up her hair for the party that weekend. The world tilts beneath me. I grip the edge of the table to steady myself. Your parents showed up at the hospital while you were getting coffee. They told me if I ever mentioned the motorcycle, they'd press charges for endangering a minor. His voice cracks. I was 17, scared out of my mind. When they started telling everyone about the bus stop and the stray cats, I just went along with it. Why are you telling me now? My voice sounds strange to my own ears, because it's eating me alive. And my wife saw your message. She's been telling me for years I need to come clean. He pauses. Nina knows I'm calling you. We've stayed in touch. My sister knew. All this time, she knew. Will you sign a statement about what really happened? I ask. Already typing it up? I'll have it notarized tomorrow. After I hang up, Evelyn squeezes my shoulder. One more piece of evidence. Now let's call your Aunt Laura. Aunt Laura's testimony comes easily, too easily, as though she's been waiting for permission to unburden herself. I was bringing flowers to Nina's room when I overheard your parents in the hallway, she explains, her voice wavering. Your mother said, don't let anyone know she was with that boy. We'll say Nora was supposed to walk her to the bus. And your father answered, Nora's always been responsible. She'll accept it was her fault. Laura's voice breaks. I should have said something then. I'm so sorry, Nora. By Sunday afternoon, I have everything I need. I time my arrival for when Nina is at physical therapy with her weekend caregiver. The living room seems smaller somehow as I stand before my parents, police report clutched in my hand. Dad looks up from his newspaper, eyes narrowing at my expression. What's going on? I know the truth about the accident, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. It happened miles from the bus stop, on Jason's motorcycle. The color drains from Dad's face. His hands clench the armrests of his recliner, knuckles white. Mom recovers first. We were protecting Nina from scandal. You were old enough to handle the responsibility. She says it like it's reasonable, like destroying one daughter to protect another makes perfect sense. You made me believe I destroyed my sister's life. My voice doesn't rise, but something in it makes them both flinch. For 11 years, I've carried that guilt. Dad leans forward, desperate. It doesn't change your obligation to your sister. I never abandoned Nina, and I never will. The words come from someplace new inside me, a place that's been buried under years of manufactured guilt. But I'm not signing those papers. Not tomorrow, not ever. I turn and walk out, back straight, head high. The front door closes behind me with a quiet click that feels more final than any slam. Evelyn waits in her car at the curb, engine running. Her eyes widen when she sees me. You look 10 pounds lighter. The tears come then, sudden and overwhelming, not tears of pain but of release, as though my body is shedding years of accumulated poison. It worked. I manage between sobs. They admitted everything. This is just the beginning, Evelyn says, pulling away from the curb. We're going to set things right. My phone buzzes with a text from Aunt Laura. My guest room is ready whenever you need it. I should have spoken up years ago. Then Marcus calls with news. I've been looking into your parents' finances. There's evidence they've been using your contributions for their mortgage, not just Nina's care. This is exactly the kind of family fraud case that needs exposure. As we drive away from the house where I've been imprisoned by guilt for more than a decade, I watch it shrink in the side mirror. For the first time, I allow myself to wonder, do I push forward now, or give them time to come clean on their own? The answer forms clearly in my mind. No more time. No more lies. I need to talk to Nina when she gets home from therapy. My sister needs to know that I've discovered the truth, and that I don't blame her for staying silent all these years. We've both been victims in different ways. It's time for us both to be free. On Monday morning, I take a sip of cold coffee, grimacing at the bitter taste as I stare at the whiteboard in Evelyn's office. The timeline stretches across the entire wall, 11 years of manipulation mapped out in neat blue marker. Each sticky note represents a moment when my parents leveraged my guilt to extract money, time, or emotional support. We need to anticipate their next move, Evelyn says, capping her marker. Her crisp pantsuit and steady voice ground me as I try to process the magnitude of what we're uncovering. They won't just roll over now that you've confronted them with the police report. The fluorescent lights hum overhead as I nod, forcing myself to look at the board with clinical detachment. My nursing training kicks in, assess the situation, identify risks, develop a plan of action. Martin always counterattacks when cornered. I say, pointing to incidents in 2018 and 2021. Here, when I questioned why my inheritance from Grandma went to Nina's treatments, he told Pastor Miller I was becoming bitter about my Christian duty. And here, when I tried to move to my own apartment, he claimed Nina had a medical setback that required round-the-clock care. Marcus enters with a stack of manila folders, setting them on the conference table with a solid thump. His investigative journalist instincts have proven invaluable over the past week. You were right about the financial angle, he says, opening the top folder. I tracked your contributions against Nina's medical expenses for the past 5 years. Less than 40% of what you gave them actually went to her care. Number 9. My stomach tightens as I scan the spreadsheets. Where did the rest go? Mortgage payments, credit card bills, a fishing boat purchased 3 years ago. Marcus taps a highlighted section. And this is interesting, they've been making payments to a vacation timeshare in Florida since 2020. The betrayal stings fresh, but I push the emotion away. This isn't about hurt feelings anymore. It's about systematic fraud. We're building this case exactly like we would for a patient safety investigation. I tell them, falling back on familiar professional territory, documentation, pattern recognition, witness statements. Evelyn nods approvingly. That's exactly right. Emotional confrontations won't work with manipulators this skilled. We need to dismantle their control systematically. Over the next few hours, we organize our evidence with military precision. Jason's written account of the accident and the threats my parents made afterward. Financial records showing the pattern of misappropriation. Medical records revealing treatments that were billed but never happened. I feel a strange calm settling over me as we work. For years, I've approached my family situation with guilt and fear. Now I'm analyzing it with the same clear-eyed focus I bring to complicated patient cases. Marcus taps his pen against the table. The insurance angle is particularly concerning. There are several claims filed for Nina's equipment that never materialized. That crosses into potential fraud territory. I've spoken with 3 of your colleagues at Denver Memorial, Evelyn adds. They've provided statements about your exhaustion from carrying this double burden. Dr. Harriman was particularly supportive, said he's watched you fall asleep, standing up during 12-hour shifts after being up all night with Nina. The office phone rings, startling us. Evelyn answers, her expression shifting as she listens. Yes, she's here. I see. We'll review it immediately. She hangs up and turns to me. Your parents have hired Patricia Lambert. The family support attorney? Marcus frowns. That's a serious escalation. Evelyn nods grimly. My assistant just received a formal demand letter. They're citing moral obligation and threatening to petition for guardianship of Nina if you don't comply with their financial demands. My hands begin to shake, the first crack in my professional detachment. Patricia Lambert has a reputation for aggressive litigation in family support cases. The thought of a legal battle sends panic coursing through me. Can they do that? Take guardianship of Nina? No, Evelyn says firmly. But they're counting on your fear to make you fold. Legal fees alone could drain what savings you have left. Marcus studies my face. You okay? I take a deep breath, steadying myself. The initial shock recedes, replaced by a surprising clarity. They're trying to scare me because they know I have the truth. I look between my allies, determination hardening inside me. How far are they willing to go to maintain this lie? The answer hangs unspoken in the air between us. My parents have spent 11 years constructing an elaborate deception. They've manipulated our entire community. They've stolen my money, my time, my peace. They won't surrender easily, but neither will I. 3 days after gathering more evidence, I spread the documents across Evelyn's polished mahogany conference table, each piece of evidence meticulously labeled and organized in chronological order. The police report sits at the center, its official letterhead a stark reminder of the truth I was never allowed to see. "This is everything?" Evelyn asks, reviewing our preparation checklist. "Every scrap of evidence from the last 11 years. I adjust my reading glasses, still unaccustomed to their weight after years of neglecting my vision for more pressing concerns. These are the new documents, plus the old ones that we found, including Jason's sworn statement about the motorcycle accident, Nina's medical records showing treatments that never happened, and bank statements tracking where my money actually went." Marcus enters with a thick manila folder. His investigative journalist precision has proven invaluable over these weeks of preparation. "I found something." He places a document on the table. "Your parents applied for a second mortgage 6 months ago, using your signature." My stomach clenches. I never signed anything. "Exactly." He points to the signature line. "It's a forgery. The bank's forensic document examiner confirmed it yesterday." Evelyn nods, adding the document to our evidence binder. This moves beyond emotional manipulation into criminal territory. I study the forged signature, recognizing Dad's distinctive pressure points. Even his forgeries bear the imprint of his controlling nature. "I've filed the restraining order against your parents." Evelyn continues, "That should prevent further harassment while we complete our preparations." The whiteboard behind her displays our timeline: 11 years of systematic manipulation, reduced to bullet points and arrows. Something about seeing it visualized this way strips away the emotional haze that clouded my judgment for so long. Nina's medical records were the final piece, I say, tapping a folder containing documents from 3 different specialists. Half the treatments they claimed my money paid for never happened. The physical therapy center has no record of the intensive sessions they described at church fundraisers. Marcus whistles softly. "This isn't just a family squabble anymore. It's financial fraud." "We're not just exposing a lie," I say, my voice steadier than I expected. "We're dismantling a decade of fraud." "For my another way." My phone vibrates against the table. Hospital administration. I hesitate before answering. Nora Reed speaking. "Miss Reed, this is Melissa from HR. Your immediate presence is requested regarding serious allegations about your professional conduct." Ice spreads through my chest. "What allegations?" "Your father called our ethics hotline this morning. He claims you've been stealing prescription medications to sell for personal profit." The accusation steals my breath. I place the phone on speaker so Evelyn and Marcus can hear. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. I manage, ending the call. "They're escalating," Evelyn says, already gathering documents. "They discovered our investigation and they're striking at your most vulnerable point." My career. The floor seems to tilt beneath me. Everything I've worked for. Marcus shakes his head. "It's a desperate move. They're hoping you'll back down to protect your reputation." I need to address this immediately. I stand, gathering my credentials and professional portfolio. The hospital has cameras in all medication areas. The accusation will fall apart under scrutiny. "I'll come with you," Evelyn offers, "as your attorney." 2 hours later, I sit across from my supervisor, Janet, while hospital security reviews medication access logs. The tension in my shoulders eases as Janet studies the documentation. "These allegations have no merit," she concludes, closing the file. "Your dispensing record is impeccable, Nora. I'm sorry you're going through this family situation." In the parking lot afterward, Evelyn squeezes my hand. "You handled that perfectly. Professional, composed, nothing like the panicked reaction your parents expected." "Should I confront them now?" I ask, watching the afternoon sun glint off hospital windows. "Or wait until our case is airtight?" Back at Evelyn's office the following morning, we convene for our final strategy session. The evidence binders stand ready, each document tagged and indexed. Marcus has assembled a multimedia presentation displaying the timeline of manipulation. "I've contacted everyone who witnessed their manipulation over the years," Marcus reports. "Former neighbors, church members, even Nina's doctors who received conflicting stories about her care." The financial evidence alone is enough to shut them down completely, Evelyn adds. The forged mortgage application gives us significant leverage. I study the assembled materials, the culmination of weeks of methodical work. The transformation feels almost physical, the constant weight of guilt replaced by clarity of purpose. We're ready, I say, my voice steady. It's time to end this. On Wednesday next week, doorbell chimes, pulling me from my thoughts as I smooth the wrinkles from my navy slacks. My phone buzzes with a text from Evelyn. We're in position. Stay calm. These past weeks have felt like training for battle, gathering evidence, building legal arguments, documenting years of manipulation. Now, standing in my childhood living room, watching relatives file in with solemn expressions, I realize no amount of preparation could prepare me for this. Mom gestures everyone toward the dining room, transformed into what can only be described as a tribunal. Extra chairs circle our oak table, each position set with a water glass and notepad like some twisted board meeting. Dad stands at the head, shoulders squared in his Sunday suit. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. He begins, voice carrying the practiced sincerity that once fooled me too. This is difficult, but family matters require family solutions. I scan the faces Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister Grace, two elders from church, Pastor Miller with his Bible placed precisely before him, and a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who must be their attorney. Nina sits in her usual spot, eyes fixed on her folded hands. Dad continues while Mom distributes stapled packets. For those who don't know, Nora has been responsible for Nina's care since the accident 11 years ago. Recently, she's decided to abandon that responsibility. The accusation lands like a physical blow, exactly as intended. Shocked murmurs ripple through the room. That's not what's happening, I interject, but Dad raises his hand. Please, let me finish. His voice drops, thick with manufactured emotion. We've covered Nina's expenses as best we could, but Martin's health issues have made working full-time impossible. First lie, he was fired for poor performance. Mom takes over seamlessly, opening a binder of medical bills. These are just from the past 6 months. Without Nora's contribution, Nina's physical therapy will stop entirely. Second lie, insurance covers most of those therapies. Nora makes $70,000 a year as a nurse. Dad adds, eyes glistening with tears that appear on command. We're only asking for $2,000 monthly. She has retirement savings she could access for the initial care fund. Uncle Robert turns to me, confusion and disappointment etched across his face. How could you do this to your sister? The room feels suddenly airless, walls closing in as each relative absorbs the carefully crafted narrative. Pastor Miller clears his throat, his expression grave. Perhaps Christian mediation would help resolve this. Nora, your sister needs you. Surely we can come to an arrangement that honors your family obligations? The attorney slides papers toward the empty space before me. I've drawn up a simple caregiver agreement. Once signed, we can ensure Nina's needs are met properly. Every eye turns expectantly toward me. This is exactly what they wanted. Public pressure, moral judgment, the weight of community expectation forcing my compliance. Nina remains silent, her continued muteness interpreted as confirmation of their story. My phone vibrates again in my pocket, the signal we arranged. I rise slowly, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. Before anyone signs anything, I'd like to introduce someone. On cue, the doorbell rings. Mom frowns, clearly annoyed at the interruption of their perfectly orchestrated intervention. Who could that be? She asks, suspicion edging her tone. My attorney. I answer simply, watching her face pale. And a journalist who's been helping me investigate what really happened 11 years ago. Dad's hand tightens around his pen. This is a private family matter. It stopped being private when you invited the church elders and your lawyer. I walk to the front door without waiting for permission. Evelyn enters first, every inch the professional in her charcoal suit, followed by Marcus with his recorder and press credentials visible. Behind them, Aunt Laura steps in, Mom's youngest sister, who worked at the hospital when Nina was admitted. What is she doing here? Mom demands, rising from her seat. Supporting the truth, Aunt Laura replies, moving to stand beside me. Pastor Miller looks bewildered as Evelyn introduces herself. I'm Evelyn Carter, representing Nora Reed. I understand you've been discussing a caregiving agreement under false pretenses. This is absurd, Dad sputters, his practiced composure cracking. Nina has been paralyzed for 11 years because Nora failed to walk her to the bus. Everyone here knows the story. That's the story you told, I correct him, feeling strangely calm now that the moment has arrived. But it's not what happened, is it, Dad? Marcus sets up his recorder at the table's edge. Martin and Diane Reed, I'm Marcus Bennett with the Denver Chronicle. I've been investigating your financial arrangements regarding your daughter's care. Mom's face contorts with fury. How dare you bring strangers into our home to attack us? After everything we've done for Nina. After everything you've done? The words escape me as a harsh laugh. You've spent 11 years making me believe I destroyed my sister's life. You took my college fund, my inheritance from Grandma, and half my paycheck every month while telling me it was my responsibility. The room falls silent, relatives exchanging uncomfortable glances. Pastor Miller leans forward, uncertainty replacing his earlier confidence. Nora, these are serious accusations. Yes, they are. I turn to face the assembled family. Before anyone signs anything, there's something you all need to see. Evelyn opens her briefcase, removing manila folders for each person present. I catch Nina's eye across the table, seeing fear, and something else, perhaps relief. Nina, I say softly, after 11 years, don't you think it's time for the truth? Tears fill her eyes as she looks up, her fingers white-knuckled around the wheels of her chair. The folder before her contains what the others don't, photographs of her with Jason on his motorcycle, taken the morning of the accident. I've carried this for so long, she whispers, barely audible. Evelyn places the final folder in front of Pastor Miller. The police report, witness statements, and financial records documenting 11 years of systematic fraud. The accident happened 3.8 miles from the bus stop, on a motorcycle with Nina's boyfriend against her parents' rules. Uncle Robert opens his folder, color draining from his face as he scans the documents. This says the accident had nothing to do with missing the bus. Nothing whatsoever, I confirm, watching my parents' carefully constructed world begin to crumble. They lied to everyone, including me, from the moment Nina arrived at the hospital. Aunt Laura speaks up, her voice trembling slightly. I was there that day. I overheard Martin telling Diane to make sure no one knew Nina was with that boy on the motorcycle. They created the bus stop story before Nina even went into surgery. Pastor Miller turns to my father, shock evident in his expression. Is this true, Martin? The silence stretches, thick and suffocating, as the assembled family members turn to my parents, waiting for a denial that doesn't come. My mother's lips press into a thin, bloodless line. My father's jaw works soundlessly, his carefully constructed persona shattering under the weight of documented truth. Nina's voice breaks the silence, small but growing stronger with each word. I skipped the bus to ride with Jason. Mom and Dad always said Nora would be blamed because she was supposed to be watching me. Her eyes meet mine across the table. I let them do this to you. For 11 years, I stayed silent. The tears I've been holding back threatened to fall, but I blink them away. This isn't over yet. I'm sorry, Nina. I reached toward her, not quite touching. I would have helped you anyway. You never needed to lie. We all need to review these documents carefully, Pastor Miller says, his earlier certainty replaced by grave concern. Marcus steps forward, recorder in hand. I'd like to ask a few questions about the church fund that was established for Nina's treatments. The atmosphere in the room shifts palpably, fear giving way to the first stirrings of accountability. My parents, once so confident in their manipulation, now sit frozen as their elaborate construction begins its inevitable collapse. I remain standing, supported by allies who helped me uncover the truth, finally ready for whatever comes next. I stayed quiet out of shame. Nina bursts into tears, her tears streaming freely now. I begged Jason not to tell anyone. I was 14 and scared of getting in trouble. Her hands grip the wheels of her chair as she moves closer to the center of the room. When Mom and Dad blamed Nora, I was too terrified to contradict them. And then it just continued, year after year. Her voice breaks. I let you carry this burden for 11 years. I'm sorry. The transformation in the room is immediate and complete. Uncle Robert's face hardens as he looks at my father. Aunt Sarah moves to sit beside me, her hand finding mine. Pastor Miller closes his Bible with a soft thud. This betrayal goes against everything our community stands for. Pastor Miller says, standing to face my parents, you've manipulated not only your daughters but our entire church family. Church elder Mr. Peterson rises from his seat. The church fund was meant for Nina's treatments, not your mortgage. My parents shrink into themselves as the room turns against them. The power that once allowed them to control my life through guilt and manipulation evaporates in minutes. Marcus captures everything on his recorder. I have everything I need for a comprehensive story about family fraud. He says quietly to me, I never abandoned you, Nina, I say, moving to kneel beside her wheelchair. I just couldn't live with the lies anymore. Nina reaches for my hand, gripping it tightly. I knew it was wrong but was too scared to speak up. Can you ever forgive me? I pull her into a hug, feeling her shoulders shake with sobs. There's nothing to forgive. We were both victims here. Elder Peterson clears his throat. The church board will need to investigate the potential misuse of donated funds. Evelyn steps forward. And I should clarify for everyone present, Nora has no legal obligation to provide financial support for Nina, and never did. Pastor Miller nods solemnly. Moving forward, the church will ensure proper oversight of any support for Nina's care. My parents stand together, isolated in a room full of people who now see them clearly for the first time. Mom reaches for her purse, Dad for his keys, silent acknowledgement of their defeat. I think we're done here, Dad says flatly. No one stops them as they move toward the door. No one offers goodbyes. As the door closes behind them, I remain beside Nina, our hands still clasped together. The weight of 11 years lifts from my shoulders, leaving me lighter than I've felt since I was 16 years old. In the silence that follows their departure, Nina squeezes my hand. What happens now? She whispers. I look around at the people who stood with me today, Evelyn with her legal brilliance, Marcus with his investigative skills, Aunt Laura with her belated but crucial truth, Pastor Miller with his moral clarity. Now, I tell her, we start over. With the truth. The sunlight streaming through the window catches Nina's tears, but for the first time in 11 years, they shine not with guilt or shame, but with hope. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I unlock the door to Nina's new apartment, pushing it wide as she wheels herself across the threshold. Sunlight streams through uncovered windows, painting golden rectangles on the hardwood floors. The space is modest but completely accessible, lowered countertops, roll-under sink, wide doorways, and a bathroom large enough for her wheelchair to turn around comfortably. Is this really mine? Nina's voice carries a wonder I haven't heard since we were teenagers. All yours. I set down the box I'm carrying. The insurance settlement covered the first year's rent plus the accessibility modifications. No more asking permission to adjust your living space. Nina wheels herself through the apartment, running her hand along the countertops. Her shoulders have straightened in recent days, the perpetual curve of apology gradually disappearing. Dad called me again last night, she says, stopping at the window overlooking a small community garden. He sounds desperate. They should be worried. I unpack dishes into low cabinets. Pastor Miller told me the church board started an investigation into the misused funds. And that's not counting the insurance fraud charges. Nina nods, a complicated mixture of emotions crossing her face. 11 years of lies unraveling in 2 weeks. My phone buzzes with a text from Evelyn. Financial guardianship papers approved. All Nina's benefits will be properly managed now. I show Nina the message. No more intercepted checks or diverted funds. She smiles, then wheels to the couch where I join her. Have you been sleeping? The question catches me off guard. Actually, yes. For the first time in forever. Last night I slept 8 uninterrupted hours without guilt-laden dreams of Nina falling or crying out for help. How about you? I keep waking up thinking I need to call them, then remembering I don't have to report to anyone anymore. She adjusts her position. Yesterday I applied for those disability benefits they always said I wouldn't qualify for. The ones they told you required my support to receive? Exactly those. She laughs, a sound I'd almost forgotten. Turns out I've been eligible for a decade. I open another box marked kitchen and begin sorting through utensils. I enrolled in the nurse practitioner program. Nina's eyes widen. The one you've talked about for years? Starting next semester. Without $2,000 leaving my account every month, I can actually afford tuition and a small apartment near campus. The golden afternoon light shifts as we continue unpacking. 3 nurses from my unit arrive with dinner and more boxes. Marcia, the charge nurse, who has watched me stumble through exhausted shifts for years, hugs me fiercely. We've started a rotating schedule to help Nina with anything she needs while you're in class, she says. The entire unit signed up. Nina accepts their embrace with tears in her eyes. I never knew how many people cared. After they leave, we sit together on her new patio as evening settles around us. Crickets chirp from the community garden below. Nina's apartment feels nothing like our parents' house. No heaviness, no walking on eggshells, no constant reminders of obligation. For years I thought caring meant carrying everyone's burdens. I say, watching a hummingbird dart among the potted flowers Marcia brought. Now I see it means helping people stand on their own. Nina reaches for my hand. I should have told you the truth years ago. We were both trapped in different ways. 6 months later, I stand before the whiteboard in Denver Memorial's Trauma Center, leading orientation for new nurses. My scrubs are the same blue, but everything else has changed. My small apartment near campus is filled with plants and books. My student loans are on a manageable repayment plan. Most importantly, the weight crushing my chest for 11 years has lifted. Remember, I tell the wide-eyed nurses, your first responsibility is to advocate for your patients. Sometimes that means standing up to family members who claim to know what's best. And, after my shift, I drive to Nina's apartment for our weekly dinner. She's mastered cooking from her wheelchair, and the smell of lasagna greets me at the door. How's the online program going? I ask, setting my bag down. 3 A's so far. Pride colors her voice. The disability advocacy course is my favorite. I'm helping 2 families navigate the system our parents exploited. We eat at her accessible table, discussing future plans rather than past mistakes. When she mentions our parents' latest attempt at reconciliation, I don't feel the usual twist of anxiety. I told them the same thing I always do. I say, I'll consider a relationship when they take full responsibility and make amends to the people they hurt. Nina nods. They're still talking about family obligation and forgiveness without acknowledging what they did. Their choice. I take another bite of lasagna. I don't need anyone's permission to create my own life anymore. On the 1-year anniversary of the confrontation, Nina and I drive to the city park where I used to feed stray cats as a teenager. The autumn leaves crunch under her wheelchair as I push her along the path to the small clearing where the feeding station once stood. Remember when I couldn't even look at cats without feeling guilty? I ask, helping her navigate a bumpy section of trail. Nina laughs. And now we're building a support network for families dealing with spinal cord injuries. The Reed Sisters Foundation launched last month with funding from a settlement with our parents' insurance company. We've already helped 3 families navigate medical systems without financial exploitation, providing grants for accessibility modifications and legal support to protect vulnerable patients. Later that evening, we attend Nina's physical therapy milestone celebration. She demonstrates her improved upper body strength by transferring from wheelchair to treatment table without assistance, earning applause from the gathered therapists and fellow patients. When asked to say a few words, Nina wheels to the center of the room. The heaviest burden wasn't my paralysis, she tells the group, her voice steady and clear. It was the lies. Watching her speak with such confidence, I feel a sense of completion. The truth hasn't just set us free, it's shown us who was really there for us all along. Not the parents who claimed exclusive rights to our loyalty, but the community that rallied around us when we finally spoke our truth. As we leave the celebration, Nina asks, do you ever wonder what would have happened if Evelyn hadn't asked about the police report? I consider this as we head toward the car. I think the truth would have found its way out eventually. It was too big to stay buried forever. What would you do if you discovered a family member had been lying to you for years? Would you confront them directly or gather evidence first?
The monitor beeps in perfect rhythm with my heartbeat steady, persistent, mechanical. Sunlight streams through half-drawn blinds, casting harsh rectangles across the sterile white sheets covering my broken body. I stare at the ceiling, counting the tiny holes in the acoustic tiles for the 43rd time since morning rounds. Miss Jenkins. Dr. Mehta's voice draws my attention as he enters, clipboard in hand, eyes kind but clinical. How's the pain level today? Still hovering around a 7, I reply, wincing as I shift slightly. Every movement reminds me of what happened. He nods, making a note. That's to be expected. Your injuries were substantial fractured shoulder, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding. You're lucky to be alive, miss. Jenkins. Lucky. The word lands like a stone in my stomach. Your recovery will take time, he continues, checking the monitors. But you're stable now. That's what matters. I force a smile that doesn't reach my eyes. Thank you. Dr. Mehta pauses before leaving, his gaze sweeping the empty room. No flowers, no cards, no family. Just the sterile efficiency of medical equipment keeping me company. Is there someone we should call? He asks, the question gentle but pointed. They know, I say, looking away. They're just busy. After he leaves, the silence settles heavily around me. 6 days. 6 days since the accident, and still no sign of my parents. I've made excuses in my mind. Maybe they didn't get the message, maybe they're traveling, maybe there's been some misunderstanding. The same litany of maybes I've been reciting my entire life. The door swings open again, and for a heartbeat, I imagine it's them. But it's Sarah, my closest friend, her arms filled with a container that steams slightly. Homemade chicken soup, she announces, setting it on the rolling tray. Hospital food is criminal. The simple kindness brings unexpected tears to my eyes. Hey, what's this? Sarah sits carefully on the edge of the bed, her hand finding mine. Bad day? I blink rapidly. Just grateful you're here. She arranges the soup, napkins, spoon-small comforts that suddenly mean everything. I thought your parents would be here by now, she says, the words casual but the impact seismic. They're coming soon. I lie, the words bitter on my tongue. Sarah's brow furrows. Really? Because. She stops herself, but something in her expression makes my heart pound faster than the monitors can track. Because what, Sarah? She hesitates, then pulls out her phone. I didn't want to show you this, but you should know. She swipes through to a social media post, then reluctantly turns the screen toward me. The image strikes harder than the car that hit me 6 days ago. My parents, beaming with pride, standing beside my sister Cassandra as she accepts some award. The timestamp, yesterday. They're in Chicago? My voice sounds far away, hollow. Sarah nods, her face a portrait of contained fury. Cassandra's marketing award ceremony. They've been posting about it all week. The truth crashes through every defense I've built. They didn't come, not because they couldn't, but because they chose not to. The physical pain of my broken bones suddenly seems insignificant compared to this new wound. I close my eyes, and the accident replays in vivid detail. Rain-slicked Chicago streets, headlights reflecting off wet pavement, the sudden impact as a drunk driver swerved into my lane. Screeching metal, shattering glass, the first responders cutting me from the wreckage. And now, this second collision, the realization that I'm truly alone in this hospital room by choice, their choice. Memory after memory surfaces, childhood birthdays where Cassandra received lavish gifts while I received practical ones. My high school graduation where they beamed at Cassandra, then merely nodded at me as I crossed the stage. Family photos where I always stood slightly apart. Christmas mornings with Cassandra's pile of presents towering over my modest few. Years of making excuses for their behavior. Dad's just stressed about work. Mom doesn't mean to compare us. Cassandra needs more attention. She's the sensitive one. With trembling fingers, I reach for my phone on the bedside table. 6 days of silence stare back at me from the screen. Not one call, not one text asking how I am. Nothing. I type a careful message. It's been 6 days since my accident. Why haven't you visited? Minutes tick by, marked by the steady beep of the monitor. Then the phone buzzes. Cassandra needed our support more. We'll try to stop by next week. I stare at those words until they blur. Something breaks inside me and, unlike my bones, I don't think it will heal the same way. What would you do if your family abandoned you during your darkest hour? Would you forgive, or would you finally see the truth you've been avoiding your entire life? I know what I have to do now, and they'll never see it coming. Miss Jenkins, just checking on your pain level? Nurse Chen adjusts my 4 with practiced efficiency. Still around a 6, I reply, though the physical pain has become secondary to the hollow ache spreading through my chest. She hesitates, clipboard clutched against her scrubs. I should mention, your parents did call once. My heart lifts momentarily. They wanted to know how soon you could be discharged. She avoids my eyes, busying herself with the monitors. I told them recovery would be substantial given your injuries. The momentary hope crumbles, not, how is she doing, or can we speak to her, just when can she leave? Thank you for telling me. I manage, my voice steadier than I feel. After she leaves, Sarah returns, her expression tight as she sits beside the bed. Mads, I need to show you something else. Her thumb swipes across her phone screen before she hands it to me, reluctance in every movement. Fresh photos of my parents appear not in Chicago anymore, but posing before the Eiffel Tower, champagne glasses raised. The caption reads, "Celebrating our amazing Cassandra's achievement with an extended European tour. First stop, Paris." They extended their trip. The words taste like ash. They knew I was here, and they extended their trip. Sarah's face contorts with restrained fury. 3 more countries. They've got the whole itinerary posted. I scroll back through months of texts from my Parensa digital archive of disappointments. Cancellations from my birthday dinner because Cassandra needs help preparing for her presentation. Missing my company award ceremony because your sister is going through a difficult time with her breakup. Patterns so clear I wonder how I never truly saw it before. My phone buzzes with a new message from them. We'll visit when we return. This trip with Cassandra couldn't be postponed. You've always been the strong one, you understand. The social worker visits that afternoon, a kind-faced woman named Janet who speaks in careful, measured tones. Madeline, I notice your emergency contacts haven't visited. She phrases it delicately. Is there someone else we should call for your discharge planning? I shake my head. My friends will help. Family support is crucial for recovery, she suggests. Perhaps some counseling together when they return? I could arrange? They're in Europe, I interrupt, with my sister. They extended their trip after my accident. Her professional mask slips momentarily, genuine concern breaking through. I see. She makes a note, then meets my eyes directly. In that case, let's discuss resources for your independent recovery. She leaves a folder on my bedside table. Between painkiller doses, I flip through medical bills already accumulating, insurance forms, home care instructions. The estimated total makes my stomach clench. Not a word from my parents about helping with any of it. I close my eyes and see them clearly for the first time. Dad Richard Jenkins, Senior Vice President at Morton Financial, measuring worth by achievements and status. His annual Christmas speech always includes a detailed accounting of Cassandra's accomplishments, followed by a brief, and Madeline continues her work at that software company. Mom Evelyn Jenkins, the consummate enabler who once explained their favoritism with, "Different children need different things, dear." Cassandra just needs more attention. The same mother who missed my college graduation for Cassandra's dance recital. Their coordinated manipulations suddenly transparent. You've always been the strong one. Translation, you require less effort, so you receive less attention. My phone lights up with messages, not from my parents, but from people who actually care. From my boss, Kevin. Team has arranged coverage for as long as you need. Focus on healing. Full pay, continue as no arguments. From childhood friend Emma. Booked my flight from Seattle. We'll be there Tuesday morning. Don't argue, already took the time off. From my coworkers. Meal train organized for your first week's home. Schedule and dietary preferences attached. The hospital staff treats me with extra gentleness, the night nurse bringing me real coffee instead of the standard issue. You remind me of my daughter, she says. Strong, but everybody needs somebody. In the bed beside mine, 83-year-old Doris watches Wheel of Fortune with the volume too high. Your folks haven't visited, she observes bluntly between shouting answers at the television. They're in Europe. I reply, the excuse sounding hollow even to my ears. Doris snorts. My daughter hasn't spoken to me in 12 years over a casserole recipe. Families. She turns toward me, wisdom etched in every wrinkle. But let me tell you something, young lady. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Dr. Mehta returns with my updated prognosis. Recovery will take months, not weeks. He explains, reviewing my chart. Physical therapy twice weekly, limited mobility. You'll need assistance with daily tasks initially. The reality sinks in what family would typically provide. I will have to find elsewhere. My phone buzzes again. A message from my parents. We'll stop by to see you when we return next week. Something shifts inside me, a tectonic plate of emotion finally breaking free. I type carefully. I needed you here, not when it was convenient for you. Please don't bother coming when you return. I'll be recovering elsewhere. My thumb hovers over the send button. My whole life has been spent making excuses for them, smoothing things over, being the strong one who needs nothing. I press send. The relief is immediate and staggering, like setting down a weight I've carried so long I'd forgotten it wasn't part of me. When Sarah returns that evening, I show her the message. Her eyes widen, then fill with fierce pride. About damn time, she says, squeezing my hand. For the first time since the accident, I feel something unexpected. Not just anger or abandonment, but the first fragile seedling of freedom. Have you ever had to face the painful truth that someone you love doesn't value you the same way? At what point do we stop making excuses for family who continually let us down? The monitor beeps for the last time as the nurse disconnects me from the machines. Tomorrow, finally, I'll leave this sterile prison. 12 days since a drunk driver shattered my body at an intersection. 12 days of pain, morphine dreams, and the harsh reality of who truly matters in my life. Your parents stopped by while you were in physical therapy, Nurse Diane says, adjusting my pillows. Her eyes avoid mine. They wanted to see you before discharge tomorrow. After 12 days, I say, the words like pebbles in my mouth. How thoughtful. Diane's mouth tightens at the corners. We both know what thoughtful doesn't look like. The hospital room door swings open, and there they are, father in his tailored navy suit, mother in her cream cashmere sweater, perfectly coiffed, perfectly timed to make an appearance before I leave. Madeline, dear. Mother's voice carries that familiar lilt of practiced concern as she surveys the room, her nose wrinkling slightly. This room is rather basic, isn't it? We could have arranged for something more comfortable. It kept me alive, I reply, watching father check his phone, his thumb scrolling through emails more important than his daughter's broken body. You look tired, Mother continues, reaching to smooth my unwashed hair. I flinch away, my fractured shoulder protesting the sudden movement. Pain rockets through me, but I welcome it, it's honest at least. Recovery from multiple fractures and internal bleeding tends to do that. My voice sounds different to my ears, stronger, less apologetic. Father glances up from his phone. The hospital billing department called. I forwarded everything to our accountant. No questions about pain, no inquiry about my recovery plan. Just business, as always. How considerate. The words fall between us like dropped stones. Now, Madeline, Mother says, her voice taking on that familiar, placating tone. We understand you might be upset, but our trip with Cassandra couldn't be postponed. You know how important that award was for her career. 12 days, I say quietly. Pardon? It's been 12 days since a car going 50 miles an hour crushed mine. 12 days since they cut me out of the wreckage. 12 days of pain and recovery and wondering if my family cared if I lived or died. The silence stretches between us, uncomfortable and raw. Don't be melodramatic, Father says finally, slipping his phone into his jacket pocket. We knew you were in good hands. You've always been the strong one. Strong, the word they use when they mean convenient to ignore. We expect you'll bounce back quickly, Mother adds, glancing at her watch. We have dinner reservations at Montrose's at 7. We should be going. They leave with promises to help once I'm settled, the door closing softly behind them. No hugs, no tears, just expectations that I'll forgive and forget, as I always have. The next morning, Sarah wheels me out of the hospital. No parents in sight. Your chariot awaits, she says, helping me into her Honda. The movement sends fire through my ribs, but I bite back a cry. When we reach my apartment, I'm greeted by a transformation. Grab bars installed in the bathroom, kitchen reorganized with essentials at waist level, a makeshift bed set up in the living room to avoid stairs. We took turns, Emma explains, flying in from Seattle despite her terror of planes. Kevin helped install the grab bars. Mrs. Peterson reorganized your kitchen. The meal prep team from work filled your freezer. My throat tightens as I take it all in this tangible evidence of love. I don't know what to say, I whisper. You don't need to say anything, Sarah replies, setting my medication schedule on the coffee table. This is what family does. Family. The word lands differently now. 3 days later, the apartment door buzzes unexpectedly. Sarah opens it to reveal my parents, carrying a small potted plant and wearing expectant smiles. We thought we'd surprise you, Mother announces, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. Her eyes sweep critically over the modifications to my space. Oh dear, this setup looks so institutional. Father follows, frowning at the hospital bed in my living room. Is all this really necessary? Seems excessive. Behind them, I catch Sarah's eyes widening in disbelief. The physical therapist recommended it, Emma says from the kitchen, her voice neutral but firm, for proper recovery. Mother beelines to my medication chart, picking it up with a critical eye. This schedule seems complicated. I should reorganize it for you. Something shifts inside me like a bone finally setting into place. I needed you, I say quietly. The room falls silent. I needed you when I was in the hospital. I have support now. Mother's hand flutters to her throat. Madeline, we're here now. That's what matters. No, I reply, the clarity of the word surprising even me. When you needed me all my life for Cassandra's events, for family appearances, for the image of a perfect family showed up. When I needed you, you chose something else. That's what matters. Father's jaw tightens. We're still your parents. Yes, but these people, I gesture to Sarah, Emma, and the evidence of others' care around the apartment. These people are my family now. They leave shortly after, discomfort radiating from their stiff shoulders. The door closes behind them, and for the first time since the accident, I feel something like peace. Push through it, my physical therapist commands as I struggle to lift my arm 15 degrees, sweat beads on my forehead, my muscles screaming in protest. I can't, I gasp. You can! You're rebuilding, Madeline! This is how strength returns. Rebuilding. The word echoes as I force my shattered body to move. Each small victory marked on the calendar, I've created a document of resurrection. Later, when the session ends, I notice my phone on the table. No messages from my parents. 3 weeks ago, this would have devastated me. Today, I simply put the phone in my bag. You know, my therapist says, watching me closely, you're healing more than just your body here. That night, sorting through old photo albums during my recovery, I see what I've always refused to acknowledge. In every family photo, Mother's arm around Cassandra, Father's proud hand on her shoulder, and me, always slightly apart, smiling too hard, trying to belong. I find my childhood diaries, reading entries with new eyes. Mom missed my science fair today. Cassandra had a cold. Dad said my A in calculus was expected, but took Cassandra out for ice cream for her Psi 1 in English. No one remembered my birthday until dinner. The tears come then, not for the present pain, but for the little girl who never understood why she wasn't enough. I cry until there's nothing left, mourning the family love I never had. And in the morning, I wake with a strange lightness. The pain in my body remains, but something else has shifted. I look at the calendar where I've been marking my progress. Today, I add a new notation. Freedom Day. The steady rhythm of my life has finally found its cadence again. 6 weeks into recovery, and my apartment no longer feels like a medical ward. I've banished the raised toilet seat to the closet, tucked away the shower chair, and relegated the pill organizer to a single kitchen drawer instead of dominating my counter. Small victories. Evening sunlight streams through my west-facing windows as I water the peace lilies Sarah brought when I first came home. It's thriving, unlike the relationship with my parents, which has withered to the occasional perfunctory text message. I prefer it this way. My journal sits open on the coffee table, today's entry still drying. Walked 8 blocks without pain. First day back at Horizon went better than expected. Kevin arranged a welcome back lunch. No one treated me like I might break. The apartment has become my sanctuary during these weeks of healing. Gone are the family photos that once cluttered my bookshelf, subtle reminders of what I thought I had, or what I hoped for. In their place stand new memories, a candid shot of the hospital staff who threw me an impromptu discharge party, a selfie with Sarah during my first post-accident outing, a group photo from the surprise dinner my coworkers organized last week. I settle onto the couch, savoring the simple pleasure of being able to sit without wincing. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma. "Call me tomorrow? Want to hear about your first day back?" The unexpected pounding at my door shatters the peaceful evening. My heart rate spikes, a Pavlovian response to sudden noises since the accident. I approach cautiously, peering through the peephole. My parents stand in the hallway. My father shifts his weight from foot to foot, his usually impeccable silver hair disheveled. My mother wrings her hands, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. They look nothing like the polished couple from Cassandra's award ceremony photos. I open the door but don't step aside. "Madeline." My father's voice lacks its usual authority. "May we come in, please?" The please stops me cold. In 31 years, I've rarely heard that word cross his lips, at least not directed at me. "It's important," my mother adds, her voice trembling. I step aside, curiosity overriding caution. They enter my home like strangers, perching awkwardly on the edge of my sofa, declining my automatic offer of water or tea. Silence fills the room, thick and uncomfortable. My father stares at his hands. My mother's eyes dart around, landing briefly on the missing family photos before skittering away. "What's happened?" I finally ask, remaining standing. Whatever brought them here, I want the advantage of height. My father looks up, his face a mask of defeat I've never seen before. "Cassandra has been arrested." The words hang in the air between us. I wait, knowing there's more. "Securities fraud and money laundering," he continues, his voice hollow. $1.8 million. My mother's quiet sobs punctuate his words. "It's all over the news. Everyone knows." "I'm sorry to hear that," I say, surprised to find I genuinely mean it. Not for my parents, but for Cassandra, whose desperate need for approval has apparently driven her to criminal acts. "We've already spent $300,000 on legal fees," my father says, getting to the point with unusual directness. "The best criminal defense attorney in Chicago. Character witnesses. PR consultants to manage the media fallout." I nod, piecing together why they're here before they say it. "We need your help, Madeline." My mother reaches for my hand, but I step back slightly. She withdraws, hurt flashing across her face. "We need to borrow from your savings." $250,000, my father specifies. "We know you have it. You've always been so." He pauses, searching for the right word. "Responsible with your money." The irony isn't lost on me. The trait they've dismissed throughout my life, my practicality, my careful planning, has suddenly become valuable to them. I absorb their request with surprising calm. 6 weeks ago, it would have sent me spiraling, desperate to earn their approval at any cost. But that Madeline shattered along with my bones in the accident. "Would you like tea?" I ask, moving toward the kitchen without waiting for their response. The familiar ritual of heating water, selecting tea bags, and arranging cups gives me time to think. I return with a tray, setting it carefully on the coffee table. "Tell me more about Cassandra's case," I say, pouring for each of us. "What exactly did she do? What are her chances in court?" My parents exchange glances, clearly thrown by my measured response. They expected either immediate agreement or emotional refusal. My analytical questions unsettle them. "She made some poor investments for clients," my father begins. "Investments she knew were fraudulent?" I ask. "The situation is complicated," my mother interjects. "And the money? Where did it go?" "There were expenses," my father says vaguely. "Lifestyle requirements for her position." I sip my tea, noting how they squirm under my steady gaze. The power dynamic has shifted, subtly but unmistakably. "You've always been the responsible one," my father says again, a note of desperation creeping into his voice. Cassandra, she's different, more fragile. She needs our protection. And I didn't? The question comes out softly, but lands with the force of a thunderclap. They stare at me, suddenly seeing the weight of their choices reflected back at them. I set my cup down with deliberate care. No. No? My father repeats, disbelief coloring his tone. I won't be using my savings for this. His face darkens, the familiar anger rising. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? My voice remains steady. You weren't there when I was cut from a wrecked car. You weren't there during 6 days in the hospital. You chose an awards ceremony and European vacation over your critically injured daughter. That's not fair, my mother protests. We explained. Yes, you explained that Cassandra needed you more. She always has. My father stands abruptly. If you refuse to help now, you're no longer part of this family. Do you understand what that means? I look up at him, feeling a strange sense of peace. I've been cut off from this family since the day of my accident. The only difference now is that I'm finally acknowledging it. The truth hangs between us, undeniable and final. The phone rings at 6 in the morning. Uncle Robert's name flashes on the screen, an unusual sight that makes my stomach tighten. I've spoken to him maybe 3 times in the last 5 years. Madeline. His voice carries the weight of obligation. Your father asked me to call. He says you're not returning his messages. I sit up in bed, wincing as my still-healing ribs protest. I've been busy recovering from nearly dying. A heavy pause. Look, your sister made a mistake. We all make mistakes. But Cassandra needs family support right now. The sunshine pouring through my curtains suddenly feels too bright, too optimistic for this conversation. Who supported me when I needed it, Uncle Robert? 3 more calls come before noon. Aunt Josephine with her disappointed sighs. Cousin Timothy suggesting I'm being selfish. Even my mother's bridge partner, Martha, calling to remind me that family stands together in troubled times. What they don't say. Where was this family solidarity when I lay alone in a hospital bed? My phone buzzes with a text from a number I don't recognize. The prison's calling system. Cassandra! Maddie, please. I'm scared. I promise I'll be a better sister. I never meant for any of this to happen. The old me would have crumbled instantly, rushing to fix everyone else's problems. That Madeline died in the car crash. This version of me deletes the message. I open my laptop to find an email from my father, the timestamp showing he sent it at 3 a.m. Madeline. Your continued refusal to assist the family during this crisis leaves me no choice. Unless you reconsider your position regarding financial support for your sister's legal defense, I will be amending my will accordingly. The Jenkins family values loyalty above all else. Your actions will determine whether you remain part of this family. Richard Jenkins. I laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that startles even me. He's threatening me with the very thing they've already done, exclusion from the family. The doorbell rings as I'm making coffee. My mother stands on my doorstep, mascara smudged beneath bloodshot eyes, her normally perfect hair disheveled. You need to leave, I say, blocking the entrance. I'm still your mother. She attempts to push past me. Not today, not here. I stand my ground, surprised by my own steadiness. I raised you better than this. Her voice rises, drawing attention from neighbors. How can you abandon your sister, your family? The word abandon ignites something in me, White, hot and clarifying. Abandon? Like you abandoned me in that hospital? That was different. It always is with Cassandra, isn't it? She's still arguing when I close the door, her voice becoming background noise as I lean against the wall, heart pounding but resolve unbroken. That evening, I sit at my kitchen table with my laptop, researching what my parents wouldn't tell me. Court records, news articles, financial statements. The truth emerges, piece by damning piece. Cassandra didn't make a mistake. She orchestrated a sophisticated fraud scheme, stealing $1.8 million from her company and clients. When caught, she tried to blame 3 junior colleagues who had nothing to do with it. A Chicago Tribune article reveals this wasn't Cassandra's first ethical breach. There were incidents in college, covered up with donations. A previous employer who agreed not to press charges after my father intervened. A pattern emerges. Cassandra takes what she wants, consequences be damned. My parents clean up her messes, shielding her from responsibility while expecting me to be the responsible one. I create a new document and title it The Truth. I work methodically, the way I would approach any project at work. I gather hospital records showing no family visits for the first 6 days after my accident. I screenshot text messages where my mother tells me they're too busy with Cassandra's ceremony to visit their critically injured daughter. I compile a timeline of their Europe trip, extended while I struggled through physical therapy alone. I add older evidence, birthday cards with impersonal messages compared to Cassandra's elaborate celebrations. The college tuition I partially paid myself while they covered every expense for my sister. The family dinner where my promotion was mentioned as an afterthought while Cassandra's new apartment dominated conversation. At midnight, my finger hovers over the send button. The email is addressed to our extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, people who have only heard my parents' version of events. I take a deep breath and press send. By morning, the truth has detonated like a bomb in our family. My phone fills with messages from relatives expressing shock, disappointment in my parents, and most surprisingly, similar stories of their own. The Chicago Tribune headline flashes on my screen. Jenkins heiress cooperates with feds, implicates C-suite executives. Cassandra has turned on her bosses to reduce her own sentence. The shame my parents tried to contain spills across CNN and Fox News alike. Uncle Robert calls again, his tone entirely different. I had no idea, Madeline. Your father cut me off 3 years ago when I refused to make Cassandra CEO of my company. I thought I was the only one. Aunt Patricia reveals Cassandra borrowed $50,000 from her retirement fund money never repaid, despite repeated promises. Your parents told me not to mention it to anyone, that it would damage family harmony. Cousin Elizabeth sends a lengthy email detailing how Cassandra sabotaged her job interview at Richard's company. My second cousin Michael forwards me angry exchanges where my parents demanded family members invest in Cassandra's failed startup. The evidence mounts by the hour, a lifetime of manipulation exposed to daylight. The courtroom is eerily quiet as the judge announces Cassandra's sentence: 3 years in federal prison, 5 years probation, and $900,000 in restitution. My sister's shoulders slump. My parents sit stone-faced in the front row. I observe from the back, a spectator to the final act of their masterpiece of favoritism. 2 weeks later, at Thanksgiving dinner hosted by Aunt Patricia, the family dynamics have visibly shifted. My parents arrive late, their usual confidence deflated. I watch from across the room as Uncle Robert confronts my father. You've enabled Cassandra her entire life, and look where it's gotten her. 3 years in prison, Richard. And you drove away the one daughter who actually lives by the values you claim to uphold. My mother attempts her usual deflection. We've always treated both girls equally. Madeline is just more sensitive. Aunt Patricia interrupts, her voice uncharacteristically firm. Evelyn, we've all seen the evidence. No one believes that anymore. Cousin James pipes up from across the table. My wife and I were in Chicago when Madeline had her accident. We offered to visit her in the hospital, and you told us she didn't want visitors. My mother collapses into tears, but this time no one rushes to comfort her. My father's stammering attempts to justify their actions fall on deaf ears as more relatives share stories of manipulation and favoritism they've witnessed over the years. Later, I drive to my parents' house. I carry a small box containing childhood mementos participation trophies, school photos they never displayed, birthday cards signed with hasty scrawls. I'm returning these, I say, placing the box on their immaculate coffee table. I don't need them anymore. My father stares at me, looking somehow smaller than I remember. So you're severing ties with us completely? Over one mistake? This isn't about one mistake. My voice remains steady. It's about a lifetime of them. I forgive you both not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. As I walk toward the door, my mother calls out, You can't just walk away from family. I turn back one last time. I'm not walking away from family. I'm walking toward it the real kind, built on mutual respect and genuine love. In their stunned faces, I see the truth finally registering. In trying to save their favored daughter, they've lost the one who would have stood by them through anything if only they'd done the same for her. What does freedom from toxic family relationships really look like? As I drive away from the house I grew up in, I realize I'm finally about to find out. The sunlight streaming through my balcony windows casts a different quality of light now. Not the harsh, clinical rectangles of the hospital room from a year ago, but warm pools that stretch and retreat across my hardwood floors throughout the day. I trace the familiar path of light with my gaze, marveling at how much has changed in 12 months. My shoulder still aches when rain is coming, a barometer I never asked for, but the restrictive brace is long gone. The physical therapy exercises have become part of my morning routine, alongside coffee and journaling. Some habits born from pain are worth keeping. To Madeline, Sarah raises her glass, drawing my attention back to the small gathering in my apartment. Who showed us all what real strength looks like? 6 people stand in my living room, glasses raised, their faces lit with genuine affection. Not a crowd, but exactly right. My chosen family. I'd say I'm lucky. I begin, then catch myself. Lucky. The word no longer lands like a stone in my stomach. Actually, I am lucky to have each of you. Kevin, my boss who became a mentor, nods appreciatively. Mrs. Peterson dabs at her eyes, her weekly homemade casseroles having sustained me through months of recovery. Emma, who flew in despite her fear of flying, Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia, who reached out after decades of family-enforced distance. And Sarah, who saw what everyone else missed and never once made me feel burdensome. No parents, no Cassandra, and amazingly, no void where they should be. Uncle Robert catches my eye from across the room. Before the accident, he was just a name mentioned at holidays, another family member pushed to the margins for failing to play by Richard and Evelyn Jenkins' rules. Now, he and Aunt Patricia have become the family historians I never knew I needed. Your grandmother would be proud, he tells me later, his voice rough with emotion. She had that same steel in her spine. Our Sunday brunches have become a cherished ritual, their stories filling in blank spaces in my family tapestry. Turns out I come from a long line of strong women, just not through the branch I'd been focusing on. The promotion couldn't have happened to a more deserving person, Kevin says, setting his glass down. The team actually cheered when I announced it. He's not exaggerating, Emma adds. I was on the video call. People literally stood up. The warmth spreading through my chest has nothing to do with the wine. At work, as in my personal life, I'm finally being seen. Later, after everyone leaves, I drive past the intersection where my life changed course. The skid marks are long gone, the twisted guardrail replaced. I slow, not out of fear, but acknowledgement. The sight no longer triggers panic, just a quiet recognition of before and after. Back home, I open my laptop and find Cassandra's latest email waiting, her third from prison, each one showing incremental growth. No demands, no manipulation, just simple updates and cautious questions about my life. The therapist calls it earned redemption, this careful rebuilding. I'm not ready to visit her yet, but I answer her emails now, brief, honest, measured. My therapy sessions have decreased from weekly to monthly, but the support group I now lead meets every Tuesday evening. Adult children of narcissistic parents learning to redraw family maps, recalibrate normal meters. Watching their faces as recognition dawns, you mean it wasn't just me? Heals something in me each time. The Thanksgiving dinner last month marked a turning point. My first holiday hosting, my first without obligatory family tension. I remember Sarah's impromptu toast, to the family we choose who love us as we are, not as they need us to be. We laughed that night. Not the careful, measured laughter of family gatherings past, but deep, unguarded joy that left my sides aching in the best way. Yesterday at the hospital, where I once counted ceiling tiles in desperate isolation, I sat beside a young woman with a cast similar to the one I'd worn. No visitors, no cards. The echo of my past was so strong I almost couldn't breathe. The first week is the hardest, I told her, placing a small plant on her windowsill. But you're not alone. Now, on my balcony, I carefully position small terracotta pots in the late afternoon sun. Basil, mint, lavender, rosemary, each representing something I'm cultivating in this new life. The soil is rich between my fingers as I press seeds into the darkness, covering them gently. My mother's letter arrived this morning. I recognized her handwriting immediately, the precise, controlled script that once represented authority in my world. I read it once, noting the familiar patterns of subtle guilt and obligation wrapped in concerns about my isolation from family. Then I set it aside, its power to destabilize me gone. In my journal, I write, "Their approval is no longer my responsibility." I've learned to maintain clear boundaries with my parents' holiday phone calls kept to 30 minutes, visits conducted in public places, topics of conversation carefully curated. Dad still tries to push for more, to regain control through guilt or obligation. Mom vacillates between tearful pleas and cold silence. I remain steady, a wall of water that cannot be grasped or manipulated. Balance in all things, my therapist reminded me in our last session. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. The evening air carries the scent of spring as I water each pot carefully. Some seeds require darkness before they can reach for light. Some roots need to be cut back to grow stronger. Some plants thrive best when transplanted to better soil. I smile, patient with their progress, patient with my own. Family isn't always who raised you, I whisper to the seedlings to myself. Sometimes it's who helped you raise yourself. What does family truly mean to you? Is it defined by blood or by the people who show up when you need them most?